So recently there's been a lot of talk regarding no new iPads launching this year, and specifically the much awaited iPad mini 7 not releasing in 2023, which I'm sure broke many people's hearts. But not to worry guys, because there is now a ray of hope that we could still see this new mini launch in just a few weeks. And so let's delve into it. Now I do want to preface by saying this comes from Digitimes, and in case you're not aware, Digitimes is infamous for being horrifically wrong about things. They were the ones claiming the Apple car would be launching this year, and well, where's that folks? Yeah, it never happened, so take all of this with a mountain of salt. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. I will say though, what Digitimes tells us this time round doesn't sound too outlandish. Basically, they report that as we've known for a while, iPad sales have been declining for the last 2 quarters, but there should be some growth this quarter because there are orders for a new small size iPad. Now, it doesn't take a genius to figure out they're referring to a new iPad mini, so a simple paper launch where they update a few specs and a new flashy color could be the way to generate some big bucks. Also, I do want to mention that Shrimp Apple Pro had suggested a similar thing in the past, and he's a pretty credible source. Also, Mark Gurman, in his usual vague fashion, said an iPad mini update wouldn't be out of the question, whatever that means. And so while Quo seems fixated on the idea we're not getting any new iPads this year, I still think there's a slim chance we see the new iPad mini 7 via a press release. And remember, that's basically what they did this time last year, because the iPad 10 and the M2 iPad Pro randomly dropped on one cold October afternoon, and so we could see the same thing happen this year, considering Apple does not need a huge event with flashy transitions to announce a new iPad mini with a slightly newer SoC inside. Because if you're waiting for M2 OLED or 120Hz, we're not getting any of that. Literally, the only change we've heard about is a new SoC. That's it, guys. Now, what new chip could this be? Well, it sure isn't going to be an M-series chip, guys. I know the techies want an iPad mini Pro with all the best specs on the planet, and they want those insane Geekbench numbers, but remember, Apple's not making products for techies. They build products for the masses who don't need the power of the M2, and to be fair, guys, I don't think anyone wants to be running Final Cut on such a tiny device. Also, if you think about it, the iPad mini is very small and thin and has restricted thermals, and so I don't think it's a good idea to push this chassis and chuck an M2 inside of it, because it could overheat big time and you'll have to get the oven mitts out to actually hold the iPads. So what chip are we getting in this Iran, huh? Well, I have no sources, of course, but I'm gonna make a cheeky prediction. I think this new iPad mini is going to introduce the base A17. We did hear that Timothy struck a juicy deal with TSMC where they don't have to pay for the defective dies on the 3nm wafers, and while considering the yield rate for A17 Pro is a very poor 55%, there are a ton of dies that don't meet the requirement to be A17 Pro, but instead could be a base A17 with some disabled CPU and GPU cores. Alternatively, we've also heard that Apple's plan with the regular iPhone 16 is to use a cheaper version of A17 Pro that's based on the cheap and inferior M3E process, so maybe Apple introduces that with the iPad mini, and of course, that ends up being the regular A17. Now, what kind of downgrades could we expect with a non-Pro A17? Well, like I mentioned previously, guys, there could be fewer CPU and GPU cores, but there are 2 other things Apple could get rid of, which is hardware ray tracing and also the USB 3 controller. Now, I know Tim loves to bottleneck his mid-range products so that he can upsell you to higher-end models, but I'm really hoping both these elements stay with the regular A17, because you could argue more people game on an iPad mini compared to an iPhone, and so hardware ray tracing on the mini could be a huge deal, because I know right now many games don't support this, and even I don't game that often, to be honest, so this won't make a massive difference to my daily usage. But the more devices that support this, the more likely it is for game developers to jump on board and take advantage of the hardware. And as for the USB 3 controller, I think you're more likely to be transferring things onto an iPad than an iPhone, and so this again would be a big upgrade I'm hoping they retain. And really that's about it for the changes. Maybe we could see upgrades to the camera with the ISP on A17, and maybe we get photonic engine, but honestly, who cares? I never ever take pictures with the iPad cameras, and nor should you. The rear camera is really only for scanning documents. We could also, by the way, see Wi-Fi 6 and Bluetooth 5.3 support if you care about those things. But honestly, I'm still most looking forward to iPad mini 6 prices dropping because of the iPad mini 7 instead of the actual refresh itself. Like I said, I rarely game, and so A17 when it comes to my daily usage is going to open YouTube ever so slightly faster, and also A15 in the Mini 6 is still a decent SoC that's not losing support anytime soon. And so yes, for the bargain hunters like myself, I'm absolutely going to be recommending Many to Hunt deals on the iPad mini 6 because it's still a really solid iPad. But at the end of the day, I know some people just want the latest and greatest, and as someone with a very mundane life, I'm hoping we get the iPad mini 7 this year because I want something new and shiny to review for the channel. Now, since we haven't heard much about the upgrades we can see with iPad mini 7, I thought I'd mention some changes I want to realistically see with this, and that begins with fixing the scaling on this iPad. Apple's literally just miniaturized the iPad Pro UI for the Mini without optimizing the content for the smaller display. Yes, the company that's known for their excellent software somehow shipped a product like this. So for example, on the home screen there is a ton, and I mean a ton, of wasted space, and so as a result some widgets and the information they show are frankly too small, guys, and changing the font size does not fix this, and so I've been waiting for Apple to sort this out, but they've still done nothing. So please Apple, I beg you, fix this with the iPad mini 7. But by far the easiest change Apple could implement that I'm surprised they still haven't is 128 gigs of base storage. Now I can make do with 64 gigs on an iPad, but let's be honest guys, Apple should not be offering this little storage on a new tablet. The only model that gets a pass from me is the iPad 9 because nowadays you can find it for sub $300, but the iPad mini, the Air, and even the iPad 10 should really be starting with 128 gigs of storage in 2023. It's actually kind of funny Apple thought, hey, let's boost the Apple Watches to 64 gigs of storage, but an actual tablet that you want to store games on and TV shows and movies, nah, that does not need a storage upgrade. So yeah, please fix that. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.